it's an interesting thought. Actually, I do want to hear from Madame Ibiranke because I know what happens. We'll lose her otherwise, and then Coach David as well. I'll come back to you, Miss Kim. Look, when we talk about creative industries, I have this vision. Creative industries are the performing arts, essentially, right? And I think people would love to have Africans as dancers, singers, Afrobeat as our thing. No, 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 no. I'm just, maybe I'm crazy, but I think we need brains. We need brains as well.
Yeah.
So the issue we're trying to cater for the masses. I get that. Not everyone's going to be an academic. I get that, but we need to create the academics, and then we can have the dancers, the sports people as a side issue. Tell me otherwise. Anyone, feel free. Go on, Mr. Biranke. The mic is yours.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with you, Annie. I agree with you. We've been known, the younger generation have been known for too long about the creative arts, entertainment, music, fashion. Yes, and that's all good. It draws attention to Africa, but I'm thinking sustainable attention, not one that fizzles out. Now, as important as the creative arts are, we need the medical sciences, we need schools, we need teachers, we need brains, we need science and tech, because the world is moving so fast at the speed of light that creativity alone in the arts cannot sustain the African youth. It is good. I like it. It's giving attention, positive attention to Africa. But then what more? There's agriculture waiting to be tapped into. There's the science and tech waiting to be tapped into. I tell people that teaching is becoming like an extinct profession in Africa. We need all of these things as well as the creative arts. That's my opinion.
I totally agree with you, Madam Iberica. I really do agree with you. Of course, I'd love for you to tell our friends what you do before I pass the mic on to Miss Kim. Share our thoughts on that. Yeah, Madam Iberica, don't stop.
Okay. Yes, I'm here. Yes, I am your neighborhood and friendly parenting advocate. I have a support community for young parents who are raising children in the urban centers, because there's so much distraction right now, and every member of the family is out there earning an income one way or the other, and we seem to be taking our eyes off the ball, the children. So I have a parents lounge. It's a supportive community for parents, and I have an online academic support platform for young children for literacy, writing, reading, comprehension skills, things that they do online with me in the safety of their homes. I'm essentially your parent partner. That's what I am. Thank you, Annie.
Thank you. Look, the reason I say, obviously, I wanted to let Madam Iberica tell us what she does, because I believe we all have a hand to play in this game. This is not. We can sit here all day and blame and say the government must do. The businesses must do. I think the question I always ask is, what can we do? And I think for us, it starts with parenting. That's my personal
opinion. That's where it starts. It starts from the home. If we fix the families, if we fix the homes, we will fix society. The leadership that we're complaining about, they don't fall from the skies. They are not spirits, in quotes. They are people that families raised. So if we go back to fixing families, then we'll start fixing society. We'll start seeing the kind of leadership that we want. Empathetic, visionary leadership. It all starts from the home. So that's why I'm paying attention to families and to the homes.
I'm totally on your side, Madam Iberica. I totally agree with you. So as a kid who grew up in Nigeria, I know how parenting was done. And I hope and pray that is evolving. It is coming along to now what our kids really need. So when I say again, I give our kids more opportunities, part of taking opportunities is that our kids being being in the mood and in the space to learn, to aspire. If we don't get parenting right, we damage the kids before they even start. That's a risk that I think we will take. All of us here, I'm sure, are going to be parents one day, one way or another, right? This is why I think it matters how we parent our kids. But we'll come back to you, Madam Ibironke. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Miss Kim. I wonder what your thought is on now again the creative industries and the parenting imperative that we have. Maybe even with as African parents, are we improving? Are we changing? God, the mic is yours.
Thank you. And I hope I'm allowed to appear just with my little face because I think my internet is acting up.
It is fine. Yeah, I say that we'll try. My dream was to create like an audio type experience on this live stream. So that normally means mic off. It normally means camera off. If you know, we know what you look like now. We've seen you already today, so I'm all right with that.
Okay. Go for it. So yes, and I love the submissions that you've all spoken already about. And yes, what Africa needs is a balance. However, and I really like it that you mentioned the issues we're facing within our leadership, because I think that's the biggest challenge that Africa has. The family unit needs to be really taken care of. However, I'm very, very particular and passionate about our creative industries. And right now we're very excited with, I think Nollywood is the third biggest film producing space in the world. Besides Hollywood and Bollywood, then we have Nollywood. And that's $1 billion industry. So let's not dismiss that. And then let's also look at, we want to keep on talking about preservation of our culture. How else are we going to do that if we don't keep on nurturing those creative industries? And then let's also remember, when we talk about AI taking jobs, if there's something AI would not be able to take, is soft skills. And that's where we have the creatives. So it's not debatable. We need the creatives to be there. Of course, it's not enough. We need to work on balancing that. Like you've alluded to, people don't want to be teachers and stuff like that. We're also shifting so much into blue collar jobs because we now have a huge shortage, which is a global issue, plumbers, carpenters. And that is where we are on a campaign to make sure that our TVET can be fancy, can be attractive. Our youth would want to get into farming. Our youth won't do what some of us did. I grew up in a farm and I didn't like it. I actually think by default, that's how I ended up with this passion for tech. It was my way of running away from picking coffee. It's such a difficult job. So, and maybe that led me into so much focusing on automation. So there's obviously a way forward. When we're talking about robots coming and AI coming and taking our jobs, and you've seen like what's happened with IBM, people waking up and 5,000 jobs gone just like that. They ended up calling some of them back. So if you have your creativity, adaptability, emotional intelligence, communication skills, collaboration, critical thinking, and then of course AI skills, you have your tech skills. There's no one that will be able to replace you. So when right now with the scare of AI taking our jobs and stuff like that, it doesn't have empathy. It will not come and say, good morning, Annie. It will not get to know this child is sick. So that's why we're looking at soft skills right now as the skills. We are working so hard to impact and empower our youth for the future workforce to be ready. Soft skills are very, very critical. So I can't even emphasize further how we need creativity. And I mean, it's not just with AI. Creativity is always a skill that we've always wanted. What you're doing, and you're in the creative industry. And this is something that you've empowered so many people. You have produced. Can you imagine how many people have been able to publish a book through your creativity? You have a natural gift for engaging with people. You don't just wake up and do it. I'm sure you nurture your skill, you work on it. It pays bills, you empower so many other people. This is a connection platform. We trade, we do business. So balance is key. Balance is what we need. We need to look into just creating those. Every sector is important. I sound sometimes like I'm so obsessed with tech, and I still emphasize we won't fit in, all of us in tech. It doesn't mean being in tech is we expect you to be a programmer or to be a coder. No, we just want you to have some basic skills so that you can be able to navigate this digital era in a much easier way. If you're a plumber, we are campaigning on job creation, create your own job. Can you come up with an app that people can be able to know you're available right now, or I have a plumber that on call, this is an Uber plumber, something like that. Does that make sense? Even my dogs are adding to my voice.
Our pets always going to get involved. They think they're smarter than us. What they have to say is important, apparently, in their eyes, right? An Uber plumber. I like that idea. So literally, you can order a plumber instantly. I mean, where I live in Cornwall, with trades, they're the most sought after things in my part of England, because there's a lot of them, but they don't like to work very quickly. We have something called directly. You think that means fast? No, directly means sometime I will show up. So the thought of being able to order a trade and get a trade instantly is, again, if we're creating that anyway, especially in Africa, I'll be very impressed. I mean, there's no reason why the trade shouldn't turn up on the same day, unless, of course, they overworked, right? Which leads us to another way of thinking, which is, if we have enough work, too much work, why don't we train the next generation? It's a question, right? Joseph, I see you, my friend. Welcome. Glad you're here, Joseph from Kenya. Thank you so much for being here. Coach David, you've won. You're here. You've won the battle. You're still here. And I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed. Look, welcome, my friend. Tell us what you're up to briefly, and then share some thoughts on our topic. How do we give our kids more opportunities?
Well, I'm working coincidentally on some of the things we're talking about here. And thank you, Kim, for that bit. I heard it. Look, at the end of the day, we owe it to ourselves to create more opportunities. We need to create more opportunities for ourselves as Africans. I mean, the opportunities that Kim had, I overheard her speaking. All protocols observed. Good to see you, Michael, and Birunke, and the great Emmy. Good to be here. At the end of the day, thank you, Kim, for the work you're doing. And that came from your own experience. You were inspired to do something higher for Africans. We would need each other in terms of all the skill sets. The coders, we need the farmers we need the coders we need the creative people we need the coders and the farmers. But there is the systematic steps, in my own opinion, and it all starts from tech-enabled agriculture. That's a way of leapfrogging and also simultaneously creating opportunity from the base. Tech and mineral-enabled agriculture. Today, majority of the resources used in the developed world is available in large commercial quantities all across Africa. And the current trend that's just starting though, and I hope it is sustained, is what you see in Burkina Faso, I think, where Brian Traore is trying to take control of the resources of the people to start industrialization. Now, that is what we need to model across Africa. And let me just add to it, Africans must now work together. So we can say, for example, in the whole of West, we have about 3 or 4 hotbeds of diamond, for example, in West Africa. Can they all come together and synchronize and supply to one hub, which can be in Ghana or in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, and everybody can ship their stuff, their diamonds there, and then they can create a factory and form a good pipeline and begin to sell. What you're going to notice is that diamonds become cheaper within that bed, and the near markets like the UAE will come look for diamonds in Africa, but now in finished or at least semi-finished forms. And due to agriculture, if we, and then the next adjunct field that you see develop will be things like agro-pharmaceuticals, and then pharmaceuticals and medicine. So the point I'm making is, from where Africa stands today, a leapfrogging approach will be good, where tech meets creativity and meets the natural resources in the earth, agriculture inclusive. I think that should be the thrust of the government in Africa. And coincidentally, there's a lot of rumors in Nigeria right now that the government is moving in that direction. No more packing of raw materials to the West. Don't let me start another long seminar, but I hear that there's a particular mineral called californium that the Sambisa forest, where people are saying there's a lot of terrorism in quotes, just has an abundance, and there are different countries who go into Sambisa forest, as treacherous as it would seem. And I'm talking real intelligence report from some of the people who are working up close with military intelligence. Now, what's my point? We have agro mineral resources in Africa that cannot wait till tomorrow for the slow evolution process. This is why we need both the tech understanding and the agro understanding on the table. And as soon as we do that, guess what? We're going to need to market it. If you want to sell or market it, then you need the creative people. You need the guys who can story sell and story tell African stories to sell our products in a unique way that's not been sold before in the world. So what Kim said is very instructive. And then guess what? You're going to need academicians who would know about foundry, about drilling, about so the way to go is to actually start from natural minerals we have. That includes agriculture. I mean, how can we, in some African countries, still be importing orange for orange juice? How can there be an orange juice factory somewhere in Ilupeju in Lagos, and then they have to import orange from Spain or something ridiculous like this? I can't understand it, because I lived in Benin. I lived in Edo State and the fruit belt for about 4 years. Auchi, Fuga, Igara, all the way to Bauchi State. That exists. I traveled the Middle Belt, Lokoja, Kogi by road for some number of years. I also supervised national projects within some interior parts of the northern part of Nigeria. I mean, we are blessed with stuff. If you see the kind of eggs that come out of turkeys in Jos Plateau State, you think if they give you the egg, you think is the egg of dinosaur. Like that's this egg, you see egg, just this domestic egg used for omelette. There are birds in Sokoto State, in Jos Plateau, some in Sokoto State. If you see the size, I mean, they gave me the gizzard. They gave me gizzard in Jos Plateau. I went to supervise the national project almost 20-something years ago now. I used to live somewhere in the middle, but that's Abuja-ish, 2006, 7, 8. That's about 18 years. So I went to do a project there. And when they brought the gizzard, I had to ask the guy. I said, "Gizzard of what is this? I hope it's not a big vulture, because I don't. In my whole life, I see gizzard that big." And they said, no. So they walked me to where they have their poultry. When I saw the chickens, what they were calling domestic chicken, they were the double size of the turkeys I've seen all my life in the South. Now, that's big. If you know what the market demands for that gizzard is all over the world. A majority of that will not even get to Ibadan, talk less of get to the ports in Lagos, talk less of think of exporting them. So why don't you bring the factories to us and do something powerful with all of those things? So at the end of the day, the way to go is organized, leapfrogged industrialization. As we saw in the GSM days, people thought the GSM technology would take a while to take off in Nigeria, but no, Nigerian markets, when it comes to tech and Africa generally, we have a nice way of leapfrogging. So we can leapfrog our development, and it can be done quickly. It can be done very quickly. In between having our resources on the ground, meaning both agro resources, and to what you mentioned, Kim, the moment we have industrialized sites in quotes near that we're producing from in Africa, all of a sudden the farms will become cities and cities will become farms in quotes. What I mean by that is that the amenities available in cities will certainly be available on the farms because we are actually productive. It's a simple technology, it's a simple advancement that can be done. In fact, what will happen is that many industrialist companies all over the world, investors, will begin to negotiate with the government to come and plan their industries, and they'll be looking for large expanse of land and the farm. The other thing we need to deal with is insecurity and insurgency, which again is a local political problem. When I say local, meaning that ultimately it can be solved politically, there's political will to solve it. Anyway, those are my thoughts about how to leapfrog development and create more opportunity for our youths. Migration will not work because it will take the best of us and repeat the slave era through colonization. Colonization, my interpretation, is passing the rope from the leg of people into their mind. Neo-colonialism is what migration would do, which is less form of colonialism. That's neo. So those are my thoughts. We can't avoid that cycle of doing it together at once. Technology, working on agro, selling with creativity. That is the way we will work. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That's great insights. I love the idea. I love the reality that we have to leapfrog others. As I hear and as I watch the description of our situation, our condition in Africa, where we have this potential, I'm thinking to myself, the rest of the world's not going to stand by whilst we develop. The rest of the world will get even more advanced. So we need to make a leap.
Yeah. So Annie, for the first time, Africa can unite. You see, what used to make it difficult before was that Nigeria decides to face the West and say, like the government in Nigeria is saying the past 2-3 days, if you say you're going to deal with me with visas, then I'm going to stop you taking resources from me. You're going to see the US back down quickly, because if Nigeria is really big in what we supply in the raw materials to the West. If Nigeria takes that stand, and I pray that the Lord gives, he's entered my prayer list since I heard that news. Now that's me being really desperate. If they can pull that ball and say, look, you will either situate your factories here and would own 50-50 or something like this, or we will not allow you. And if Nigeria bails that cat, and you have just 5 countries, you see, what they do typically is to start insurgency in you, which is why 90% of the insurgency issues are in mineral-rich areas of Africa. Let me say that again. 90% of the instability issues in Africa and the restiveness you have, where people are taken out of their local governments and they are not stable, is around the minerals, agro minerals. There are agricultural products today that, because they have them in some local communities in abundance, there is insurgency there. And that insurgency is fueled with local intelligence, backed up with some foreign investor somewhere, because in the midst of chaos, you can enter the place with a helicopter and a lot of guns and ship out the raw stuff. Today, 90% of our raw materials, including agro raw materials that are very useful, they are medicinal plants today that are not that disappearing from our market, but are appearing in the United States. They appear in commercial quantity in the farms in Guatemala. And these are real medicinal products. I'm talking about leaves that if you chew them, you are bound to have longer life. I'm giving you facts and figures. People in agriculture know this, that there seem to be some, they'll take them to the lab and then they'll create better versions, and they say originally, the only thing is on Wikipedia, originally from Africa. And these are all the leaves in our farms. Now, the other thing that God has blessed us with is a youth population that can form a market. Now, that's a rare blessing. We have the raw material and people ready to buy. Now, if you create diamond markets, for example, create a new diamond market in Accra. I don't know why Accra and diamonds are coming to my mind. I pray it works that way. I mean, then you can really build the whole of West Africa. We have no business being poor. So I say that to say, if we use togetherness any, they always come and destabilize us. They always take the best of us to fight. And it's not today. Let me just throw a last jab, which a lot of my friends don't like. I jokingly say one of the reasons why Africans can work together is that those who are most intelligent of us were sent by our own people on the continent. Our great-grandfathers sent our great-grand-uncles, the most intelligent ones, the most brilliant ones, because of whatever. We sold them for gunpowder, mirror, and methylated powder, talcum powder. So I jokingly tell my friends that historians agree that the Africans that remained on the planet are the ones that have learned how to they survive treachery, and the most intelligent ones don't have a root. They are lost in diaspora. They're the ones that dropped in the Haiti and all the all the Caribbean, Pseudo-African black communities around the United States and all of that. So what's my point? My point is, if Africa comes together and just the West African coast alone, or West and East Africa, or the whole of ECOWAS comes up with a policy statement, and no African brother or cousin to a president is able to enter into any negotiations with anybody. If we can just do that together, in 10 years, I can bet you want to retire back home, because you're going to have the best of life possible. If we can just agree, look at what has happened in telecoms is big in Nigeria. If it can happen in telecoms, based on what has happened in telecoms, we are having AI coding camps, we are having very deep conversations. It's almost like if you're in a meetup meeting in Lagos. I was in Lagos the other day, just less than about 2 weeks ago, and I was in a meetup, in an AI meetup, and the concepts they were discussing, look, current concept, you understand, I was at the University of Ibadan to speak to the students. That's the second largest in Africa now. The university there existed now for hundreds of years. And literally, the issues we're discussing were modern postgraduate students. But it didn't look like it was backward. The concept was still the concept of the West, of what's going on. It was the core things that have been released that week on the AI slab that was showing them, and they were giving me intelligent answers. What's the bigger point? If we get it right and we can come together, nobody can. I mean, there's a joke adage in Yoruba land that says that if snakes were to work together, nobody can dare them. But because snakes, you always meet snakes individual. If you see a band of snakes, no matter how strong you are as a hunter, you got to doff your cap and just take another direction, because if the three of them face you, so imagine 10 snakes together. So that idea of destabilizing the whole of Africa is not possible anymore. If just 10 African heads of state, like Traore is doing, and I'm really, really praying for that guy. He's a Muslim, but he's entered my prayer list. And I have a friend of mine in the United States, a sister friend, who is always talking about Traore. She's always raving about Traore. And I'm watching that country, and I hope what happened to their predecessors, the Thomas Sankaras of this world, will not happen again. And the Pan-Africanist of yesteryears. But as a student of history, maybe our current president, who is an old man, and you may have a neighbor listening, after now is going to die. I'm sorry to say, Buhari is now gone. So that's the advantage of being an old man. You don't get to see the repercussions too much. So why don't you bell the cat and make it a better word and give a good name for your dynasty? Why don't you Because if you're afraid you're going to be alive after your presidency, like Obama now, you have many years, then you can be afraid of doing too many radical things. But if you're going to be away in the grave after a few more years, why didn't you do what you're supposed to do? So that's my last counsel. Forgive me for ranting for long. You asked me a touching question. So forgive me for ranting for long.
There's always someone who sells us down the river. That's a problem. I agree with you.
No, but if we are together, I
hear you.
If 10 presidents tell them move out, or we start building the industries, and they put their guns to the head, what are you talking about? Look, it's going to be difficult for the United States or whoever to cause instability, and there are other economies willing to receive us. The Chinese economy, the Middle Eastern economy, even within the BRICS, they are ready to receive us. Russia is always looking for ally, although I'm not a fan of the guy, but she's looking for ally all the time. I mean, at the end of the day, we can't be looking at our youths. Look, I was in Lagos and look.
Coach. We need to I need to show a video and then get the other views on your thoughts so far. Now, Molly, I think I hear you say we need Nkrumah's vision to be realized in Africa, and so that I agree with. Molly says we need to bring technology's advances back to Africa, then we'll solve our problems. So that's at the heart of the conversation, really. What skills, what opportunities do we need to solve our problems? That's, Coach, I hear everything you say, and I agree with you. It is a mix of tech and skills, tech and industrialization, tech and agri-business and agricultural advances that we need to make, right? And of course, Ms. Kim mentioned we need blue-collar jobs. So Molly, we're agreeing with you. So I see your last comment. We need to build manufacturing infrastructure on the continent. Of course we do. We really do, right? Where are we going to start? Before I go to where we're going to start, let me show you a quick video. Say 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. Yeah, 3 minutes just about. Just to paint the picture in graphic details and look at some of the recommendations of what we might need. Then I'll come to Ms. Kim and Mr. Calm to share their thoughts on what Coach shared, and also give us your thoughts going forward. And so here's my video.
By 2050, Africa will be the only major region with a growing working age population, more than doubling to 1.3 billion people. That's 700 million more people from today. The number of youths aged 15 to 24 will also increase by 80%. Globally, 1 in 3 youth will be African. This presents an opportunity, but also a challenge: creating enough jobs. Jobs are the surest way to defeat poverty. Jobs provide dignity, independence, and allow individuals to support themselves and their communities. But today in Africa, GDP per capita growth produces only 1/3 of the jobs observed in other regions, meaning that economic growth is not translating into job creation. In addition, 1 in 4 African youth are not in education, employment, or training. And as technology alters the nature of work, many youths lack the skills needed for today's jobs. Countries in Africa will need to create 1.5 million new jobs per month just to keep pace. This need will grow to 2.3 million by 2055. Jobs will be needed in cities and rural areas that will continue to be home to a large and growing population. And as the private sector is already the largest contributor to jobs in Africa, supporting entrepreneurs and businesses, whether micro, small, medium, or large, will be essential. The scale of the challenge is daunting, but not unprecedented. While Africa is projected to add 28 million working age people per year by 2055, Asia added over 50 million per year in the early 2000s. To create more and better jobs, African countries will need to focus on production, removing constraints to firm growth to increase labor demand, earnings, and employment. People, investing in nutrition, education, and digital skills, and boosting participation in the labor force, especially for women and youth. Places, providing the infrastructure, information, and security needed for people and firms to locate where they can be most productive, and building a strong economic foundation through effective policy frameworks and strong institutions. At the World Bank Group, we are working to prioritize job creation in everything we do by helping countries invest in infrastructure, health, and education, enabling entrepreneurship and matching youth skills to labor market needs, strengthen governance and business enabling policies, and mobilize private capital. With the right investments and policies, Africa's youth can climb the ladder of opportunity, driving the continent toward a brighter future.
So yeah, it's a scary, for me, it's a scary world because I think we're such a long way behind. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone tell me I'm wrong if you think I'm wrong. So I love to learn. Miss Kim, let's come to you, Miss Kim.
And just a minute, so just a minute. You're not wrong. Please help us send a link in the chat to that video. You're not wrong. You're totally on point. Thanks for sharing that video, by the way. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll share the video. I'll send you the video if you want, Coach David. That's an easier way because there's a link to it, but I tend to create my own for my events. Miss Kim, talk to me. So what Coach David said and what you've seen. Tell us what you think.
I was just about to fall in love with Coach David until he dropped the bomb. How can you say you're not wrong? You're so wrong. And you are so wrong. There's nothing to be scared of. That video is so exciting. You can see the spirit of Africa. You can see we're boots on the ground. Industries, manufacturing, every sector. There's one thing that we always need to reflect on. When especially, I can't take it up with this comparison that we like doing. We are not competing with anyone. We are our own competition. We're not going to compare ourselves with anyone. We are doing extremely well. That doesn't mean we can't do better. We can do better. There's room for better. But I've learned to just wake up sometimes and clap hands for myself because there's so much progress in this continent. Especially when you spoke about creative industry. Do you know Nigeria is going to be, I think, the first country, I don't know, I'm sure US has done it or is about to do it. There's a world-class AI movie that is just going to shake the world that Nigeria is coming up with. The innovation in this continent, guess what we don't do? We don't tell our stories. We just don't. And also, so we've left the West to tell our story, and we've also allowed them with this brain drain. Who is building all these platforms? Who is in Silicon Valley? Who is behind it? It's we. It's we. And guess what? The chicken have come home to roast. I had the coach telling you that you could come back in 10 years. No, I'm giving you 5 years. You'll be right here. There's so much happening. So, of course, we're boots on the ground, starting with equipping our youth with skills. And look at them. For me, because I work with youth in Sub-Saharan Africa, every day interacting with them just makes my heart full. It just makes me see the potential within the continent. How are we expected to wake up and rise up to the occasion overnight, start building those smartphones and laptops when we don't even have accessibility to skills or infrastructure? But we're getting there. We're building day and night. Now, and that is why for me, it is so very close to my heart, and it's so critical for us to ensure that skills, because we don't have a shortage of jobs. No, what we have is a shortage of skills. And it's not just a shortage of skills, but much more of skills mismatch. We're not training for the jobs that are right there. These jobs, the blue-collar jobs.
Miss Kim, that's a big issue. Where is a mismatch? Is it our kids don't?
Okay, so here's a mismatch. First, we moved so much with colonialization or colonialism as it was. And we also started with buying the American dream. We started with assuming the right jobs are being lawyers, doctors, and nurses, and teachers and stuff like that. We ignored the blue collar jobs. So right now, everywhere in this continent, we're struggling with carpenters, plumbers, tailors, those blue collar jobs. And that is why we are waking up and sprucing up our TVETs, the vocational technical colleges. We also went so academic and assumed that you can't do anything else if you're not academically brilliant. We missed the boat. We forgot. And that is where we've gone back to nurturing our creative industries. You could be the world's best dancer, but you can't add 1+1. And it's okay. So we harness that skill that you have. We also lost Africans were the most resilient people. There are so many reasons that researchers have come up with on why COVID didn't kill us. Besides vitamin D from weather, we are also just inherently, I don't know if it's the colonialism that made us so resilient. And that is why you drop us in Kalahari Desert, we spruce up. We get things done. But with all this, technology has its pros and cons. We missed out on soft skills. We assumed, you and I growing up, nobody was there worried or teaching us soft skills. What was that even? It was not even a thing that somebody needs to sit and teach you how to communicate, collaborate, how to adapt emotional intelligence, because we had our grannies. But then with these economic hardships and life changing, there are no grannies anymore to teach us. We're all working grannies and working moms. So now we are integrating and doing an entire overhaul of our curriculums because we have seen our children need their soft skills. That adaptability, creativity, communication, collaboration, critical thinking, problem solving, especially problem solving, because that's how we come up with entrepreneurs. And then, of course, we are so much emphasizing and teaching them. You can start your side hustle. You can be an entrepreneur. So as now aligning those skills that you don't just need to be a plumber, you also need to create that and start going door to door, go to people's houses, unlock those toilets. And then ultimately you start hiring. Digital skills. Currently, Africa, we're up in arms. As of, I think, 2022 statistics, we were on 92% on smartphone penetration within the continent. Internet, we're getting there. Like him or you don't, Elon Musk, well, he's helping with his internet. And of course, right now, the internet penetration, yes, it's still a struggle, but it's getting there. So we are working so hard on empowering, especially our informal sector, where we make sure that they create their own employment, those economies. We give them smartphones. They can build those platforms. They can pay online. They can create the inventory. They can market. These are traits or skills that are so easy to train. So it's so easy to convert that big population constantly into a unique workforce. Just like the coach said, agri-tech. We're working so hard. I think like Ghana, I've seen Ghana do a lot of work in investing in agri-tech and smart farming. Because obviously today's children will not go to the farm and pick coffee like you and I did. So Africa right now has 60% of the world's arable land. But youth are fleeing from the farms. But the more we make it, we come up with tech. They're using AI, they're using drones, they're using apps for precision farming. They get to know how they can fundraise, they create cooperatives and stuff like that. Those societies, associations, they get training. We teach them how to export their product. Then it becomes more attractive. And of course, as you heard others say, we're building our own local manufacturing farms. This green infrastructure, as we get so excited about AI, the chicken are coming home to roost. If there's anywhere we can source energy for those data centers, that will be in Africa. And obviously, there's so many reasons as to why everybody is looking at Africa as where we can unlock those opportunities. The internet has become Africa's borderless employer. My current job now I'm on a mission, creating 1,000 jobs every year. But guess what? If they can't get that job right now, we have a shortage of 5 million workforce just on cybersecurity alone. In Africa, 1.2 million. Where do you think the world will get those people from? You want 5 million people to be trained on cybersecurity. We have a training program that takes you 1 year and you start earning a pretty good penny. And it doesn't matter. You can be somewhere you can be in Soweto, for all I care. You can be in Sierra Leone and you're working for a company in Canada because there's something that is right now threatening the masses, it is cybersecurity. And you can see the crime rate. So we just need to spruce up, just like the other speaker, that lady who spoke about our leadership, family units. The only crack we have is our leadership. And we're whipping them. You've seen Gen Z, they're not sparing them. And the alphas are coming. So we're getting there, Annie. You're coming home soon. Start packing.
I laugh. Not with nerves. I laugh because I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, Miss Kim. But I hear you. So and I would ask you a question because there's a mismatch between what business is. You keep saying it, which is dead true, which is that we haven't got a shortage of jobs, yet we have huge unemployment. Are we saying that our youth don't have the skills? Are we saying they don't have the behavior, the soft skills that you're talking about, Miss Kim? Or are we talking about their mindsets and their attitude? And say, what do we need to work on first, maybe, out of that list? I say behavior, soft skills, mindset, or skills. What are we missing the most? That's what we'll say. I want to hear from Miss Kim first. I come to Michael and then Coach David. Please go on, Miss Kim.
I could package everything you've said in one. It's all that. But guess what we need to do? First, start with overhauling our education. Because, we have graduates who are literally just not employable. We're still on theory over practice. We're still on memorization instead of innovation. We're still so obsessed with degrees instead of skills. We spend, especially in my country, Botswana, we spend so much money taking our kids abroad to go and get those degrees. And then they come back and they can't get a job. Is it necessary? So it's literally where now we're coming back to TVETs. Can we get plumbers? Can we get electricians, mechanics, welders, solar technicians? And then can we blend in these skills and make sure they can get their soft skills, digital skills, entrepreneurship? Because even the youth that we have that have gone through university, they're not employable. They're not job ready. So the courses that we're teaching some of them, they're not aligned to the industry needs. So companies are not included in curriculum development. Internships and apprenticeships, they are scarce. It is so difficult for our kids to get internships because they're just going to come and waste your time. So there's a gap within the system. And especially that one of the digital literacy gap. It's critical and we are working on it. That career guidance, if there's no mentorship, there's no exposure to real world jobs, there's no access to platforms or the labor market data. So our kids don't even know where to start. So we're investing in demand-driven training. Where before I start teaching my kids cybersecurity, Annie first tells me, I need 100 of them. Can you give me 100 kids in 1 year? Boots on the ground. And you tell me specifically on this and that. I'm a podcaster and every day I get people hitting on me. How can we deal with that? So I'm going to train specifically knowing I'm training for this company and these are the skills they need. So Africa does not have, it's not just a job problem. It is a vision problem as well. So we keep training youth for yesterday's world. So now we need to prepare them for the world as is today. And we're doing it.
Yeah, I like everything you say there for sure. So we do need to, we can all do, we're not offer mentorships and support to someone, to an African young person. So thankfully, all of us on stage are old. Well, I say old. We're middle-aged, so all we're getting there. Miss Kim is much younger than all of us. So apart from that,
I don't know where you came up with. I love it.
Michael's old as well. So the three old men and the young Miss Kim on stage, right? But then but we can do something to help someone. Michael, it doesn't mean people who send me DMs automatically get me supporting them, because that's not how it works, right? There's more when it comes to, I think, the mindset, the relationship, the plan, the vision, as Miss Kim calls it. That's what will move me in the end. So I wonder what moves you, Michael. Michael, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Please go for it. share with us?
Calm.
You heard a lot. I struggle with that, Mr. Calm. I have to add Mr. before the calm because it doesn't come naturally, right?
No, it does not. Not for you, Annie. It's probably got something to do with the monkey that bit you in the leg. Miss Kim, I do agree with your premise that education is fundamental. And I also certainly agree with you the fact that the vision in education, current vision in education, which is not, for some reason, it's not changing fast enough. Um, uh, the emphasizing training youth for tomorrow as opposed to training youth for yesterday is not changing. Most likely it's because the teachers are from yesterday. The teachers are not focused on tomorrow. They're focused on yesterday. So it looks like there needs to be teachers need to be re-educated in order to be able to teach youth for tomorrow's for tomorrow's industry. And of course, we need in the United States, it's also a problem. Uh, polytechnic skills are needed. They've got a lot of people with degrees who are not utilizing their degrees, but there is the kids here are really fundamentally going back into the polytechnic schools and actually applying there, and more of them more at a higher rate. That's the growth rate in terms of the education system. The growth is in polytechnics. It is not in it's not in regular degrees, and that is you can also see that it's not because of you would think that it is being driven because of the amount of money that it is required to actually go to these schools, being a hell of a lot more than the amount of money required to go to polytechnic to do polytechnic schooling. And that's probably that is driving it. But at the same time, I do believe that there is a vision that they're seeing a vision where those skills will very much be needed in their future, in their own. It's going to make them a lot more independent, so to speak. They're wanting to become more independent. Um, in other words, they want to be um, off the government role or or off of government systems, where they do not want to be relying on systems that are being provided by other people. They want to be relying on themselves. They want to be totally and utterly independent, and that is something that Africa needs to really take a look at and remain independent instead of allowing individuals within Africa to remain independent and capable of taking care of their own communities, so that more people within the communities actually have a job. You know, maintain your skills, maintain your polytechnic skills. Also, you can have degree jobs as well, but please have a good combination or a good layer of those people who have degrees and then also those people who have polytechnic skills. And at the same time, make sure that the people who are teaching the community are also conversant and also attuned to what the future will bring or what the future will lead to in order for our societies to progress in a manner that won't in which you won't see you won't see lack. You won't see a lack. You won't see a lack in employment. You'll actually see continuous, continuous employment and continuous value. You get continuous value from the community as an individual.
So I'm reminded of what Ms. Kim said just now, which I think is hugely important as well, Michael. It's demand-led training. Because if we don't have the skills that employers need, and then they're forced to import people, which they do in good numbers to Africa, in good numbers to African countries.
They do that a lot in South Africa. I already know that.
See, we can't move forward from where we are in terms of income, moving past poverty, if we don't have the skills that companies need. That's a big problem I see in terms of today. But I think we do have to have that demand-led training also for tomorrow. Because again, each step. I mean, you see the numbers of jobs we need in Africa: 2.5 million jobs a month. Every month. How are we going to do this? Coach, I hear you. Demand-led training is definitely key. But it doesn't take away my question. Cyrus, I want to come to you because I know you're otherwise engaged, but you're here. Thank you so much for joining us, Cyrus. Is it demand-led training we need? Go on.
It's also applying, getting the capital organized, and organized in such a manner that it is distributed amongst the people. I know you really think about communism, but at the same time, I know it's just all about valuing the individual and valuing their potential and their capability in doing what needs to be done for the community. Redistributing what you call it, what you earn, the capital, for and creating such policies that allow for growth and also allow for equality and equity, and also allow for respect and value for people's talents and capabilities. People go and do work because they're capable of doing it, and they receive that they know that they can do it, and they like to solve the problems that that are confronted by doing that, by solving those problems that they confront with, by doing the work that they know how to do. So teaching people how to value that is very important, and allowing the system to to also give value to people who are capable of doing that in a good manner for everybody, as opposed to not just for certain individuals who are or maintaining or grouping or taking that value and giving it to a small group of people, and letting them utilize the capital to drive other people. In other words, the distribution of private sector versus government sector jobs, there needs to be some sort of we need to revisit that and rethink how that should actually work, because currently it's not working very well in the world, and especially in Africa, it's not working very well in Africa, and we're having a lot of issues with respect to that as a result. Our mind frames are not geared towards that kind of a system. We need to change. We need to figure out what we need in order to uphold our individual communities that are currently run. Nigeria has a big issue in that respect, and that's why you're having a lot of issues in Nigeria at this particular juncture.
Most African countries have issues in that area. Ms. Kim mentioned something I think it's easy to miss: the informal economy. Maybe some will call it the real economy, because it's informal, but it's where most people earn the money and keep their money. And this is where Eni says to you, my friends, unless we pay tax in the formal economy, we're going nowhere. That's my personal view, really. That I've argued this many a time in these events.
What's driving the informal economy is what do you call it? It's because of the fact that the formal economy has really been lackluster in supporting the community and supporting families in Africa. That is why there's a huge drive in the informal economy. The formal economy does not support African family, and it should, and that should change significantly.
Yeah, it has to change, because unless it does, we don't really have an economy, do we? And look, when I hear informal economy, and I know, to me that means reduce prices. That means reduced regulation. It means reduced, accountability. It means reduced tax, reduced oversight. And without those systems in place, where are we going? Apart from backwards. Those who I think maybe one thing we can learn from the modern day economies. Africa hasn't got to reinvent the wheel. That I would say.
I do believe, though, one interjection is that the informal economy is actually driven by supply and demand more so than the formal economy. That I do believe.
It's a way to hide your money. It's a way to hide your income, because then you don't pay tax, Michael. I'll keep saying that until I go blue in the face. We have to learn to pay tax. Otherwise, everything we talk about today, the governments can't work if we don't pay tax. Nothing works. The only thing that works is that, and even that doesn't work, the people who work for profit, even that doesn't work. This is why I say I think we're in a bind. Yes, it looks on paper easy to fix, but it's not easy. Of course, it's not easy to fix, but it looks fixable on paper. But in reality, I come back again to the question, Coach David: do we need to change our attitude, our behaviors? Do we need to change our focus on skills? As Kim calls it, demand.
Yes, we have to. It's not a matter of maybe. There are many behavioral codes and behavioral patterns that need to change. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Kim. I appreciate you guys for the good work, and I saw Cyrus coming. Thanks again, Annie, for what you're doing. There's no way that we can sustain any growth without change of those things you mentioned: change of attitude, change of mindset, change of orientation. I mean, simple concepts like attention span. I mean, of course, that's a global trend. That's not an African trend alone. All over the world, attention span is reducing, but we must do something for Africans. Again, that's where we need to look at solutions like edutainment, using African unique stories and unique context to teach. I used to have an electronic professor who taught me my mother tongue. Of course, his lectures were the best in my undergraduate days. Many people came from my own tribe, which was where the university was situated anyway. Other tribes complained, but the man would give them English lecture notes, but it's going to explain everything in that mother tongue. You won't believe how much clear it was. That's the day the man was telling us about electronics. He said, "You guys," he said again, my mother tongue, "you guys can't understand electronics too well." We said, "Why?" He said, "Because you are learning a second language. You have to translate what we are teaching you to English. Then I explain it to you. Then you now translate it back to the mother tongue language. Then you now start assimilating." Now, look at that long cycle. Why do we need to do all of that thing to you? Give us one, and then we are done with it, and then they worked on it. What's my bigger point to everyone listening to me? We need to Africanize for understanding and value engineering and re-engineering, because not everything works for us as Africans, and we can't take everything hook, line, and sinker. But some things are no brainer. We need to change. So, I mean, things like punctuality, our meridian with time. I mean, you go on an online meeting, anybody who's come from Africa will feel that culture shock. The way people take meetings in the West. I mean, at 10 a.m., if the meeting is 10 a.m., it will seem at 9:50 that nobody is coming for the meeting. That's the mystery there. By 9:57, you're still looking, maybe the class will be half full. At exactly 9:59, 10 a.m., you begin to wonder where everybody streamed in from. If you're not careful, by 10:15, 10:15, you see the class totally filled up to the brim, and everybody is suddenly there, and all the empty seats or online spaces that were free suddenly get filled up. Now, there's a punctuality culture in the West. We need to imbibe that in Africa. There should be nothing like African time. It's an insult. I mean, I understand all the nuances and the reason why, but we need to re-engineer our values at that level. The consequences. I mean, corruption and fraud is everywhere in the world, but we need to have an African code of consequences, or we need to reinvent the consequence systems of Africa. There was a time, if you were corrupt as an African or a king in Africa, you committed suicide straight up. I mean, a very powerful kings in Africa who did stuff. There's a retributive system. Then you face the music, send you to the evil forest or something, of which I understand that if we are starting a new one, we're going to put Michael and Annie in charge of the evil forest. They look like people that can man that side of the society. Miss Kim is so nice to be involved in that. But seriously,
I'm complaining because of that bias. That is a bias.
But seriously, somebody needs to do the bad job, and you guys seem to be, magnanimous enough to help us hold those positions. But seriously, we need to have African retributive justice systems. You mess up, you pay for it quickly. I mean, in the olden days, it existed in communities, but over the years, it become eroded. Then you mentioned tax. We need to quickly move all informal sectors into some form of formality. And again, look at what has happened on top of GSM. There are now unreached communities. Ms. Kim said the market penetration mobile digital penetration is now 90-something%, courtesy of the good work of a certain 10 years, 20 years max in Africa. So we can formalize that rapidly. There's a technique. There was a time in Nigeria, yours truly, where the informal sector was formalized. They were under a local government, and there was always the tax collector from the local government, and there were traditional town criers who went about to collect the tax. I mean, so whatever we need to do to formalize, the only thing that gives me jitters is spread of development. Now, you formalize tax collection, but you don't formalize development. So when people need good healthcare, they don't have access to it. So as we are formalizing the tax elements and the population issues for inclusivity and inclusion, we should remember to quickly formalize health too. And the beautiful thing is that these things have numbers. There's a certain number of medical doctors or nurses that should be to a community. These things have numbers, and it's global standard. Although that presents some tricky things, Africa has some interesting problems. There are states in the northern part of Nigeria. It will shock you, there are only 3 medical doctors. And I'm sorry I'm quoting that data, but that's the truth. You've got the commissioner for health in that state. Then you have a copper who is like an intern doctor who came to do National Youth Service. And the third person is the Deputy Commissioner of Health. These are the only 3 doctors in a whole state. In fact, one of them is a dentist, not a full doctor. How did you manage all of those kind of things? So development is an issue. We cannot say we formalize and then you leave health informally distributed, or whatever you want to call it. So we must have both sides of the divide. And again, like I said, just like you have on GSM infrastructure, it's so easy to achieve those things. We're in digital age. Let me give you an example. In Nigeria, there's a lot of conversation around, we don't know how many we are, we don't know what are the entry points and exit points, and all those things people say. Now, 90-something, okay, be conservative. 80-something, okay, conservatively. At least 75% of Nigerians are on the mobile networks. Simple. They have KYC, know your customer, already on those numbers. They have house address. They have bank account numbers. They have identity numbers. All of those things linked to a phone number. Why do we need another number called National Identity Management Commission, commissioning another long thing, when 70% of Nigerians are existing on the platform where you can even locate their location, you can even pinpoint their location if the GSM was off, if the phones were off. There are systems within the networks today that you still locate and bring out the SIM card wherever it is, just the SIM card, wherever it is. If the phone is switched off, it can be located, can be traced. And if peradventure the SIM card is removed, wherever the SIM card is, we can get there. What am I saying? We can easily begin to solve the territorial sovereignty issues of population. How many are we? But we have 70% already, and this is their name, this is their address, this is their bank statement, this is their tax ID. Why do we need to have tax ID number separately? We have a National Identity Commission number separately. We have another one. We have the international passport number, separate number. We have bank account number, separate number. Phone number, separate number. Now, everyone has about 7 to 8 numbers. Why? Let's leapfrog everything into one unique number, which is your phone number, and most people can't forget. Let's work all the other numbers around that one. And from there, development starts. So it's not difficult to know where people are to begin to formalize the informal economy. What is slightly difficult is formalizing development. So that after people have paid tax, you won't tell them that they can't have rural water, pipeline water, or there can't be roads to the rural places and all of that. Like Emmy always says, everything is a connected problem. I hear the mic. So, I'm sorry I speak for long when it comes to Nigeria. No, it's a raw nerve.
Yeah, of course. That's why we're here. That's for all of us. African issues is important to all of us. Look, I think the tax thing. No, I agree with you. I think if we don't pay tax and we expect, then that's like saying to the fire, "Give me heat, then I'll put some wood in." No, you pay first, and then the government can do stuff, and that includes health. So I'm glad you mentioned health, Coach David. This is one of the things that's going to hold us back. Miss Kim, I've got this vision of Africa being that place that I think we all dream of. That place where there's free healthcare, there's social security for those who can't, there's support, social services support for those who need support. And I know Mike is going to argue with me, but I think we don't need to reinvent the wheel, my friend. The way societies can work better for the people is there already. I'm stopping just short of communism, Michael. My friends on YouTube, please like today's video, make a comment, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. So I see you there. So I do want you to engage with us, and of course, engage with Coach David's channel as well. It's Coach David is the other one on YouTube. So do connect and do engage with our videos, please. We'll need numbers, right? Look, amazing shares, everyone. I know this conversation could go on forever. But I don't want it to go on forever. I think there's steps that we can take from what my friends have shared today. Let's begin to take those steps. Let's not just keep talking and nothing happens. Let's take those steps for sure. Our conversation around technology and AI, I have a concern which I just can't shake. Here's a concern I have. It's 30 seconds long. So.
You can think about building an AI system, but let's say you're in Lagos and your light has gone off for the 3rd time this week. Like, how are you even going to do that? And so I think that we have to consider the role that governance and governments play in enabling AI ecosystems and also providing opportunities for youth. Because again, you can't innovate your way out of these broken systems. And so we have to have all of these factors come into play to ensure that African youth and also Africa as a whole can take advantage of all the opportunities that AI can bring.
See, there's something weird going on. I think I'm meeting myself while I'm talking. How weird, right? Miss Kim, there's something weird going on in our world. You mentioned Americans suddenly making a beeline for African countries. When someone calls Lagos, I get all concerned. I get really concerned. I'm thinking, you're not Nigerian, you're not even African. You're not, I don't know what you think, you know us. And it's worrying. But Miss Kim, tech won't work without electric, right?
No, but we have it. And we're getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there. And guess what? Just get back to our it's just within our nature for us to be so resilient, innovative. Have you seen, like, within COVID? Because so within COVID, my biggest concern was, so are we now putting a hold to education? Because obviously, if you were born and brought up in education in Africa, education becomes an obsession. So what did we do? We checked on households with just one smartphone. So there was one smartphone being shared. And in Africa, we don't do much of family planning. So on average, we're talking about 5 to 6, 7, or even 8 kids. There's mom and dad. So if mom has gone to the farm and she happens to go with their phone, we'll have to wait until she comes back in the evening. And this phone will be shared, and we're going to run classes with these kids in some village somewhere. Well, they just make sure they have that 10 minutes data to do it. So yes, it's critical. Right now we're on I'm not sure of the statistics, but there's a lot that's going on just making sure that we can mobilize that. Because obviously without infrastructure, it's a challenge. I've been there. I've worked from slums to villages and cities as well. I've worked in posh cities like Santon. I've worked in Cape Town, and I've worked in one of Africa's worst slums, like Khayelitsha in Cape Town, where you're in class with a policeman outside with a gun, because anything can happen to you anytime. So you can only imagine, if crime is at that rate, what do you think about the poverty levels? Those are child-headed homes. Those are kids that decide to join gangs, and anything happens to them at a very young age. But we would still stream with projectors. We make sure sometimes, in such places, sometimes there's no data, you won't have internet access. But we still come up with very creative ways of making sure right in those villages, there's coding and robotics happening. So, and of course, we are mobilizing with solar. There's a lot happening within the continent with the use of solar.
It's good to hear. So I think we're moving forward. I think I'll take your point that we need to tell more of our stories, Ms. Kim. We need to tell more of our success stories. So one question I was going to ask, which I've run out of time. I promised Ms. Kim would go today, not tomorrow, right? We'll leave here sometime today. Do we need aid or do we need trade, Ms. Kim?
No, we don't need aid. We don't need aid. We need trade. Please, can I just tell Coach David one thing that I'll feel like I'll bite my tongue if I go without saying it?
Please, it might be yours.
I love a lot of your submissions, but I'm very defensive on African time. In a different way, though, I agree. Yes, I am. It's not my expertise.
I'm with you, Miss Kim. African time is a good thing for me. 3 hours later, as long as the same day.
It's not about lateness. We are understood. We are mocked. We are weaponized. With this African time, we are told we are known to be disorganized and productive. How have we built this continent if we're that disorganized, if we don't know what African time is? So for me, it doesn't allude to lateness. It is our rhythm. It is our relationships. We don't speak when elders are speaking. We don't tell our grandmas when we go to visit them that I'm here for 10 minutes, I'm going. No, because we get into the spirit, we get into the moment. There's a soul within what we call the African time. We have the spirit of Ubuntu. I'm still looking for a Nigerian word for Ubuntu. Ubuntu is popularly used in Southern Africa. I don't even know. I'm from Kenya. I don't even know what we call it in Kenya. What do we call it in Kenya? I don't know. But it's just, it's even different.
Same thing.
What is it? You and your Swahili. Stop crashing Swahili where it's left. Swahili died in Uganda. It was born in Tanzania, got sick in Kenya, then it was killed in Uganda. I don't even think it got an entry
pass to life. Have you ever heard of bringing something that is dead to life? Yeah, that's
please do.
In Uganda. It's Swahili is coming back to life. Mm-hmm.
Miss Kim, I'm with you on African time. I'm with you entirely. See, I'm bad with time, but it doesn't mean I'm just at all. And sometimes it's logistics, it's the infrastructure, that gets in your way. There's traffic. What can you do? can't do much about that. I live in England, where we have traffic, right? You know, but this is I do. We do what we do. Our timekeeping is not the end of the world. I'm not saying we shouldn't be early. We should be. No, but we try our best, and I know, and the reason you give is the reason I really have, which is if I'm with you, we must finish before I can go on to my next appointment. I don't want me leaving you early, and then we're half finished. Next one, then we're half finished, and then what do I do next? You take me double, 3 times the time. So, Ms. Kim, thank you for sparing my embarrassment always. Online. I'm all right online.
No. There's a big line. That's no excuse for tardiness. No.
There's a reason, Miss Kim. There's a reason. Online, I'm all right. In real life, I realize I just can't do it. I can't do it to myself. I can't leave unless I have to leave.
And please, let's have this as a podcast someday on African time, because that's such an extensive topic.
I'll be there. I promise you, I'll be there. I'll be there. And I'll be honest.
I agree, and thank you for giving the caveat about any, because many Africans. So I understand the soul, and I love the African vibe and community. But I've been in other places where there was absolutely no need. Vibe was dead. People use it as an anti-productivity African stereotype and to justify that behavior. And I just use that like the tip of the iceberg to say we have some things we need to change as Africans. And one of them is not the soul. No. I love the soul. Africans also have a sense of togetherness. I mean, when people are really greeting each other, there's you call it Ubuntu. I have a phrase for it. There is the context, the culture, the life in the moment of the people.
Yes, the energy.
The energy of the moment. And look, that is to be preserved very strongly. And that's one of the less popular uses or use cases for the creative industry. The creative industries have the capacity to help us transmit and keep those artifacts in very codified forms. We also have a lot of stories in Africa that we are not saying, and that have those kind of moments, and we're not saying them well enough, and narrating them well enough. And once in a while, we have 1 or 2 movies or 1 or 2 creative works that go global. But I don't think we have 1,000 African movies, in my opinion, African stories. In the history of story making and film making, we don't have 1,000 African movies. We don't have 1 million. But India has millions, in my opinion, of such codified moments where they dramatize like Ubuntu or the soul of the African, and concept like African time is explained. I can give you an example. The idea that Indians are totally into their communities and that they sort of don't like outsiders, in quotes. You will see that bias demonstrated beautifully in many, many Indian movies. And you begin to love the Indian culture because of it. So we need such narrations in addition to what you're saying. But there are the ones that are affecting us from being the best we can be and counterproductive among ourselves. Those ones. So within African time, there is the good side.
Yeah.
But within African time, for people like Annie, who want to find a reason to come late.
You know that he's just driving around in his car.
Mine is in defense of, when you think about it, the colonial time frame that was imposed on us, just because they wanted to put their structures for them to exploit us, control us.
That's true. So true.
And yet we still had time. We still knew this is the harvesting season. You will come when we are harvesting. You will come when the rain starts. We still defined time. The early man was actually extremely organized. They had systems in place. They had ways of making sure when we harvest, we dry this food for the next season. This is how we preserve our fish. We had our way of life that was working pretty well. So
That's true.
this thing that comes to like we're supposed to be shamed, we're supposed to be, like it's such a bad thing. No, yes, we want to make sure as when we get to the global stage, the professionalism has to be there. But we still need to make sure as that African time not to constantly be related to as laziness. It's legacy, it's living, it's
You
listening.
tell them, Miss Kim. Tell them more. Tell them more. I agree with you.
Honestly, like the way we drag on Annie's conversations, and I actually I got here first saying, Annie, how long is this gonna take? Because I know there's a time I think we stayed for 4 hours because we get into the moment. There's a rhythm, there's a soul, there's energy, there's synergy, and that's how we build. It's and this is where you find the spirit we have, the community energy that's within us as Africans. You can't even put a price on it. And that's where loneliness and mental health does not get to us. We don't even understand because I can walk into your house, Coach David, anytime I come to Nigeria, I'm sure I just need to tell you, even if I call you from the airport, you'll come and pick me up.
Why not?
And even if
That's Africa. That's from Africa.
Yeah.
But by the way, I'm in the UK, so give me
and
an
you won't
advance
tell me
notice.
you don't have time. You won't tell me that I got no time. No, you drop everything.
I agree. I agree. And you see, there's something deep in what you're saying. Now if you check Indians, Chinese, Pakistanis, Lebanese, there's one more tribe. They have a way of infusing their culture and context in a continuous way to their communities. Let me say that one more time. It doesn't matter where they are in the world. It doesn't matter where they are in the world. It doesn't matter what new religions they affiliate with. And I'm sorry, I'm using the word religion. These groups, these communities, the Indians, the Chinese, the Lebanese, and Pakistanis. There's one more that I'm not coming up to. It's not sure. I've forgotten the fifth one I have done some work with in the past. They have a way of infusing the consciousness of their culture, their context in a continuous way into their communities. An Indian is first of all an Indian before anything else, so that what he's saying at work is Indiglish, not English being spoken by an Indian. You will feel his flavor. He doesn't care about your sophistication. He's going to bring his pepper, his tandoori, what's that, their oil now. And look, they've colonized whole communities in the UK. You've got whole Indian investments, very large. Same for the Lebanese, same for the Chinese. When it comes to Africa, it's sprinkled and it's not cohesive together. And this is a very big business case for our creative industries and our industrialization again. So what you're saying, Ms. Kim, is a deep one. And it's a challenge for every storyteller in Africa. We need to do something about it.
Add Yorubas there, please. Not Yorubas. They honestly really try. With all due respect to whatever tribe you come from, Yorubas are just good. They are just special. They're very particular about preservation of their culture. They of course most Nigerians are, because Nigerians they could be the only Africans that don't care where they live and for how long. They will maintain their Africanness, their accent, their dress code, their way of life. Their pepper has to be there. Their egusi, their jollof rice.
You're right.
Yeah, Coach agree on that. Egusi,
Annie does not eat. He doesn't eat bread. He eats African.
I told you, Miss Kim, there's African food up there, right? Now hold on.
No, Annie is not African.
I'm
We need
Nigerian.
to do something about that to make him African.
Miss Kim, don't tell him, Miss Kim. Don't tell him. Don't tell him the truth.
We
It's
lost
not true. When it comes to food, I am now. Chukwudi, connect with me, DM me. So I would love to know what your trade finance instruments for African businesses are. And maybe we'll come and talk about it one day with our friends, right? So message me. Let's come and share your service. And I know money is a thing that everyone's going to say is what's hindering us. But I think, as we talked about today, it's not always money. There's a lot more than money that is holding us back. Look, Miss Kim, this is not me keeping us here. This is Coach David and Mr. Calm keeping us here from here on in, right? Tosin, look, I hear what you're saying. You love this. Thank goodness you do. Welcome to our community, my friend. Look, after the event, go to the comments and do connect with my friends and connect with anyone that you choose to connect with who's here, right? And of course, don't just connect and talk to people. Now, meet them. That's the one. That's probably our biggest door for opportunity. Talk to people, meet them, get to know who they are, get to be interested in who they are as a person, and then everything builds from there. That's where relationships start, right? So, Miss Kim, I'll say my last bit before I go to I say Calm and Coach David to have the last word. And maybe you too, right? If poverty is our issue right now, we need to move beyond poverty very quickly, urgently. I said, and the way when we can move beyond poverty, when we can earn enough money, when then we're not going to be hungry. We can pay for our health, can pay for our judicial system. Ms. Kim mentioned security and police earlier. In our infrastructure will suddenly become, quality, usable. Education system can also improve. But if we don't want to pay tax, nothing's going to move forward that quickly, right? Every time I was talking about today, the opportunities we're talking about starts with us being honest Africans who have a community-minded attitude to everyone. Not just making money and bailing. It's about helping each other and bringing our communities up. But I think it's been a fascinating conversation from my perspective. And let's do something, all of us. Even that's just connecting with someone today. I think let's do something that's going to help others. That's me for today. I don't know where to go to Coach David. Calm, you seem to be unmuted. Calm, what's your final word for us today?
All right. There are a few words I believe that are in Nigerian language, since they have different tribes, that actually are Ubuntu-like. Now, one of them, Yoruba, is Omoluabi. That's in Yoruba, maybe. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but maybe
the intonation is quirky, but the message is clear. I will explain what it means.
Tell them it's Yoruba, Coach David. This Yoruba.
I'm actually a prince.
Go for it. Go for it, prince.
Although I don't want to go to the throne because it's too political for me. But Omoluabi actually, yes, means someone who is a respectable or noble birth by birth and by character. Noble birth by birth and by character. It means the person is responsible, respectable, gentlemanly, keeps his or her words, and he's a good representation of the society. That's what it means. It's like he's our son. The feeling of is our son that we all trained and put there, and that is the code of every Yoruba man or woman. You're supposed to be that Omoluabi, something that you have good character, a child or a son or a person, male or female, that has good character, that is a representation or an example of society, and we can all see it represents us and our interests. So that's the spirit of Ubuntu, yes. It's there. So that's the name of Omoluabi.
Okay. Yeah, there's even in Igbo and there's in Hausa and Fulani as well. But those words do exist.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
not
they
going
do.
to venture into them. Uh,
Oh yeah, they do.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, they.
that's my
If I,
last word.
yeah, it's not even in to add what you're saying. It's not in those languages alone. Africa started by being highly communal. The artifacts of our culture, our way of life. Even when I was younger, if you caused trouble on the streets, the news of your trouble, and there was no GSM. Now, how news managed to get home before me so that my parents know what I've done on the road is amazing. There's somebody's mother who looks out the window and sees you and sends her son to run to your house by legs. Go and tell Mrs. Susu that her son did this or Mr. Susu. So there's communal society. I mean, you see whole societies come together and rise up all over Africa to cure menace and deal with stuff. So we need to appeal more to that spirit. The second thing, and that's to say to what Michael said. Thank you, Michael, for that. We should always remind ourselves who we are. The other thing is that we need to bear the cat in our respective spaces. And great work that Miss Kim is doing. Great work that Annie has this platform. But we need to do more. We need to engineer these conversations and make them work on the ground. I just saw a young man, Mr. Chukwudi, who does trade finance instrument to African businesses. That's a beautiful one. Miss Kim is doing a lot of capacity building and all of that. We need to do those kind of things more and create more younger entrepreneurs in Africa. I have a silent fear of a culture shift of corruption and bad habits that have now become mainstream, minus that singular cultural behavioral pattern, because culture can swallow up strategy any day. It doesn't matter how big or good our intentions are, how we are, or our culture can swallow up the best of our ideas and ideals. Minus that, that's the only quiet area I think we need to work on with deeper concerted effort. And I don't know what the solution is, but I know that's the only Achilles heel we have, in addition to leadership. At the people level is culture and behavioral patterns and bad habits. At the leadership side is very bad leadership that's not responsible, and they feed each other anyway. They are the two ends of the same coin. So that area is the reversal to all the things we're talking about, and that is what I think we need to build up and work on that negative. Minus that, I think the future is bright. I share Miss Kim's enthusiasm and Annie's enthusiasm and Mr. Calm's enthusiasm and Miss Ronke. She's off the call now. And I see Professor in the room. Prof, good to have you again. Good evening. So, thank you, Annie. That's my last point. And by the way, there is a seminar tomorrow about for students and people who are in the learning world about how to grow your mental capacity. How do you assimilate like a genius? It's called memory techniques. And some of these sciences are 500 years old, but many people don't have access to them. I didn't know about it until after my first degree, after I'd successfully struggled through my engineering degree. And then I came across memory techniques, and since then it's become much more easier for me to recall and all of this. And there are people who think that they are not brilliant. It's not true. Or you can't read, or you can't assimilate a skill. It's not true. The only problem is the way you're being taught. What if the gap between you and being a genius is knowing how? What if the brain you have is actually sufficient to make you a genius? What if how to use the brain and how it works in terms of the psychology of it and the neurology of it as a hardware is what we need to look at and help you, give you the tools. So tomorrow, that seminar is holding here on LinkedIn and also YouTube. If you're an African young person or you know anybody, please join us. And Annie, I know you won't charge me for advertisement money, so thank you very much.
Please, share the link in the comments so that way people know what you can go to it.
Okay, I'll do that.
I'll sign up, of course. I'll take a look as well if time allows. I can join you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Coach David. You've all shared genius with us today. Dr. Roxana. Dr. Roxana, how are you doing? You are muted. Prof, you have to unmute. You don't mute, we can't hear you. I hope you're not talking. There
Okay,
you go.
All right.
Sharing your activity yourself. How are you doing?
Happy Tuesday, everybody.
It certainly is. It certainly is. So having you here makes it even better and even happier Tuesday. So now, what do you want to share with us?
I just want to say that we have a good topic. We need to help those youths in Africa because I don't think they're getting enough help from the government, or that there are not enough jobs for them. So anywhere we can help them, if anybody has, by the way, I haven't greeted all of you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. But I just want to say that you have been sharing genius here. I've been listening to you. I feel so happy that you are actually discussing about Africa. But we want to make sure anywhere we can help them, if we can invest in Africa, if we have someone we can trust to be the middleman to invest in Africa so we can employ those youths. If we can, whatever we can do, whoever that can help to educate them, especially in this proliferation of AI and the jobs that it will take, whether you like it or not. It's already taking jobs. So there are, as soon as Nigeria starts getting these equipments, AI, and we need to train the youths to know how to operate these jobs with these new skills. Or it means that those who have the youths or the parents who have the money will be making sure that their children maybe get a remote job from from the developed countries, working from Nigeria, or they can move. They keep draining because we have brain drain in Nigeria. I don't know if you like that, but we have brain drain. All of our doctors and nurses, engineers, whatever we have, they are all being moved to England, US, all those countries that can pay them, that have enough jobs, that have. So I just want to say, in summary, I know you're finishing. I know I came in late. I just want to say, if anybody has the money to invest in Africa, please do. That's all I want to say. Please do invest in Africa. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you so much.
Thank
Rebecca, never late. You're here. Welcome, Rebecca. I'm glad you're here. Dr. Roxana, I agree with you 100%. Look, Miss Kim, Coach David.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Coach David.
I'm doing my bit.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, man.
No, so I'm going to Ghana in September for the youth Williams Youth Conference to go and speak to young people. And also, I guess one thing that no one knows, well, of course, I employ African freelancers, say Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and I'm going to, I'm a middleman, as you mentioned, as you call it, Dr. Roxana. I'm a middleman for, I guess, a goods service. So we supply shops in Uganda, in the shopping malls, run by single women. So we know essentially, the goods come here, I send it on, they sell it, and they make the money, right? So there's many things we can do. I agree with you, Dr. Roxana. There's many things that we can do. Let's be the ones to actually do something. That's the thing, right? That's the point. Let's be the one to actually lift our hand and do something today, rather than just talking about what we can do to help. Miss Kim, I see you're unmuted. So I'll give you the very last word. Those on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, and do all the right things, right? Thank you so much for joining our YouTube channel, mine and Coach David for sure. Miss Kim, I give you the last word. Thank you for being a star, Miss Kim. You've been an absolute revelation today.
And I just realized how much I missed these conversations. It's been super, super awesome and lovely, lovely meeting Coach David, Mr. Crown, and Professor. And it's so nice to hear, Prof, you campaigning for Yes, Invest in Africa. We are right here. We've laid the groundwork. This infrastructure. We've opened diaspora ministries. In most countries now, we have a ministry and a minister specifically to take care of diaspora, because you're a resource. You're growing the economy. We need you, and we need that collaboration. Gone are the days that we build fake houses for you. Know we are building real houses. Everyone in diaspora has a story to tell. So yes, this has been a very engaging conversation. I'm in the space of training. And within that, I train a lot of youth and I link them with diaspora who gives them jobs. And I train specifically for the skills in demand. So right now I'm very active with cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and I always make sure they understand digital marketing because they have to be entrepreneurs. They have to create their own jobs. And the critical other tool is soft skills. I always make sure by the time they're leaving our workshops or our boot camps, whatever session they pick, they're super trained. So I know Annie, you can always send your invoice later after I get the money, but please join us. Annie, please join us 1st of August. I've sent you the link that you can use for one stream for you to subscribe. But then I'll send you the link. I think Mr. Kram said he's gonna pay for you for you to attend virtually. Although I had offered to actually give you a free ticket.
I'll talk to him, so look, please do share the link, in the comments and now you and I will talk anyway. Let's see how we can get more people.
Yeah.
It's another week, a week and a half, right? So, we can get more people to know about it and actually do come along. The thing you're doing the most, Miss Kim, is this thing now. We need to create jobs.
Yes.
Too many freelancers, too many professionals think of themselves, not realizing that real growth comes from us creating jobs, us employing people, us paying people. That's the holy grail. That's how the West makes its money. Society is run by small businesses, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, the cottage industry.
Exactly. But in Africa, we seem to want to keep to ourselves. But I'm wrong. I know it's not that we do.
No, you're absolutely wrong. Look at you. I didn't even know you're doing business in Uganda. I didn't know that you're supporting single women. In Africa, for that one woman that you're supporting, she's likely to be having another 5 people that feed off that support.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The beauty is that the reward for what we do is that they have to train another woman. They have to train another woman to start her business. And so the momentum builds, right? And this is the thing that we can all do, my friends. We can all do this, right? That's what someone says. Let's get our fingers out. Let's actually do something. My friends, I don't want to keep you all night, Miss Kim. But you can go on. I'll let you speak because now you are.
I want to leave people with confidence that Africa, our youth are fresh. We have the youngest population in the world. We have the best natural resources in the world as well. Our culture is very inspiring. We have innovation, which is born out of necessity. Like we are literally very innovative people as Africans. And yes, we have our challenges, but challenges are everywhere. And sometimes, of course, we don't want to get into politics, but Africa is rising. And this time, it's not with charity, with creativity, with courage, with that spirit of community. It is so nice to get into a room and hear people asking, how can we help you? So the time we're building, come and invest. Let's collaborate. Let's build the Africa that we want. We are the world's next big thing. Opportunities are coming from here. Join us now. Annie is coming to Africa in 3 years' time. Thank you and goodbye.
No, I'm coming in September. I'm not staying.
No, you're coming for keeps. You're coming in September to work. But you're packing and relocating.
I'm trying to approach you. Miss Kim. And look, of course, talk to Rebecca. She would love to be part of the soft skills boot camp too.
Awesome.
So,
Okay.
that's why we do this room, my friend.
That's a good project you have, Kim, Miss Kim.
Thank you. I'll share with you more information.
Thank you so much.
Connect and talk. Thank you so much, everyone. Coach, you're a genius. Thank you so much. Everyone that's joined us, especially you, Michael. It looks. I love people to see our events. Until you see, you don't know what we're talking about. Really, it's hard to get your head around it. This is social media in 2025. This is what it has to be. It's what it is. Look, we're back in 2 weeks' time. To go to the comments and check out the links in there. Connect with our friends. Connect with each other. Connect with and have those conversations more than anything else, my friends. So, Dr. Roxanne, is there anything you want to say before we go?
Oh, nothing. You have already listened to all the genius that you are sharing, Miss Kim.
Awesome.
That's a lot of genius from you there. Thank you. That is David, Coach David. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Prof.
And Annie, I just want to thank you. I'm sorry I came in late, but you did a great job, though.
It feels like, I have to show you Dr. Roxana's books actually written the last year alone. So these are 3 of them. So there is a book in our Family Wealth Secrets, and How to Build Family Wealth. That everyone needs that. So they're all on our Amazon. If you can shop on Amazon, then they're there. What's the next one? Is Innovations in Education Technology.
Yeah, Innovations in Education.
So do check that out for sure. And then there's ways to make passive income, financial strategies, income strategies for 2025. It's very hard to show anything on this. Right, so you get the idea,
thank you for advertising my book, Winnie. Thank you so much.
Always.
Dr. Annie, thank you so much for advertising.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your night, Miss Kim. So we'll talk soon, of course. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
She's success with global.media.